if you talk to any successful person, they've failed like incessantly. Successful people have failed more times, than the more amateur person has even attempted. And that's just the truth, right? I fail at things all the time. We could spend the entire conversation talking about that. But I think the really important thing is that entrepreneurship is not theoretical. And so the only way that you can actually learn how to become a successful entrepreneur is through taking action.
Hello, welcome to Monetizing Mompreneurs podcast, where I take you behind the scenes with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, moms, working professionals, and amazing people pursuing their passions and going for their dreams. And I'm your host, Linda Mendable.
Hello, love. So Kelly is one of the only female founders in the online space to build her company from 0 to 8 figures with 0 debt, investors, or outside funding. Kelly is a former NFL cheerleader and a Fortune 500 executive turned 8-figure entrepreneur, empowering thousands around the globe to achieve financial and lifestyle freedom through entrepreneurship. Now, you probably heard Kelly on her last episode, and she was actually, her part 2 was actually supposed to be in the Monetizing Mompreneur Summit. But for whatever reason, her episode didn't make it. So we're airing it now on the podcast because it is so good and so insightful. So if you want to listen to Kelly's first episode so you understand where we're at, go to episode number 105. And it's titled Kelly's Blueprint for Business Success. Now you're in for a treat. So if you're not washing dishes, doing laundry, or working out, grab a pen and paper and take some notes. This is going to be a good one.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So live launching, that's what I know you from. What is it that you want to be known in?
Oh, wow. I would say I want people to know that when they lead better, they can grow faster and that they can build an empire by putting their faith and family first and marrying that with great strategy. And obviously the live launch is the most potent, powerful, productive, profitable strategy on the planet for doing that. And I don't say that because I created the live launch method. I say that because we use 14 different sales methodologies across my 6 companies to acquire clients. We're always working and testing and trying new and different things. Nothing has even scratched the surface of quantifiable leaps in my companies and in our clients' companies as the live launch has. So as soon as I have a better replacement for it, I promise I will share it.
Okay. So let's get into it. Let's go deeper into the live launching method. What does that look like? Let's say, let's go here first. Who is it for? Like, I know a lot of our listeners are, service providers.
Mm-hmm.
They're like me, like I'm a web designer, right? So I have a service that I'm providing, but I'm also switching to that, one-to-many model, right? So we're in the game.
Yeah. I mean, live coaching is for anyone that wants to gather a group of people in the same place at the same time to talk about a particular subject matter and then make an invitation. So a lot of people think like, oh, it's not applicable for my business. Like, for example, a web designer, because, you can't take 100 clients at once, right? But what you can do is you can fill your wait list. You can book your calendar with consultations. You can take deposits, right? So we have a done for you agency and, the same thing could apply there, right? So obviously a lot of the people that we have helped to use the live launch method run service-based companies where they are delivering in a one-to-many capacity. It is a lot easier to sell one-to-many if you can also deliver one-to-many. But if that's not you and you just like a way to like boost your business and you want a way like once a quarter that's going to allow you to get like basically all the clients that you need lined up for the next quarter, live launch is a great strategy for that. Even if you're using a waitlist strategy, a consult strategy, a deposit strategy, and you're going to space out the dates that you're actually going to begin the work with the clients.
I use a challenge strategy.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
So I do a challenge and I'm live. I do it live, but I also put out my podcast. And then, and then that's how I get people into my world and everything like that. And I always take a deposit. I'm immediate for the deposit because momentum. I believe in the game of momentum because I feel like live launching builds all this momentum and people are excited.
Sure.
So right then and there, this is the time to make that decision because I feel like the momentum allows someone to make a necessary decision that they were procrastinating.
Yeah.
Like it's served damn well. It's not about, trying to trick nobody out here, right? It's really trying to person to make that right decision that they've been procrastinating on to take them to that next level.
Yeah. It's also about creating the intimacy, right? Live launch is scalable intimacy because when people can spend 8 to 10 hours with you live, hearing you speak, not reading from a slide deck, really coming from the heart, teaching, giving, serving, inspiring, they feel like they know you by the end of it, right? And if people stay all the way through, most of the time they're either like, I am going to work with you. I'm committed to working with you. In the future, I want to work with you. Or even if it's not for them, they're like, I'm going to tell someone about you because this is really freaking awesome, right? So it really does shorten the timeline on people's readiness to buy. And I think that's really important because in a service-based sale, especially something that's high ticket, many times it can take a very long time for people to get to that state of readiness. And what the live launch does is it massively accelerates that.
Okay, question. So do you use the live launching for high ticket or for any type of course, like for any type of ticket?
I use it for both. So I use live launch for both a $500 product, a $5,000 product, and a $30,000 product. So we use it at all levels.
All right. So the next question, you blew my mind. All right. The next question is kind of like, all right, the listener, Kelly, you are their coach. They're, take them to where they're at, right? And like, what's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? Take us through this. Yay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say step 1 is pick a date. Give yourself, a 4 to 6 week timeline and pick a date that you're going to be live because the first thing that you have to do a really successful live launch is you have to build out the runway. But before we get to the runway, let's talk about creating your content. So basically the way the live launch is designed, and it's different depending on what price point you're selling at. If it's high ticket, it's going to be 9 full days. If it's mid or low ticket, you might do a shortened version of it. We have clients that do it everywhere from a day to 9 days. And so that's a lot of what we help people with is like the nuances of how do you know what format and what timeline and what price point is a match for your audience. But anyway, the first thing that you're going to do is say, what is the end result that you want to be known for, right? And what is the thing that you want to teach inside your live launch that is going to get people an actionable result for free before they ever pay you? So that when they do go to get help with that thing, it's a complete no-brainer that you're the one that they want to work with. So you start with that end result. What is the end result? Then you say, okay, if you could only teach someone 4 sessions, 4 building blocks of how they could get an immediate result in that area, what would those 4 things be? Write them down. So you guys that are listening can kind of like pause this audio, write them down. What are your 4 things? 1, 2, 3, 4. And they should be literal building blocks. So day 1 builds on day 2, 3, and 4. And you're going to really outline if you could only give them 4 sessions and you had to get them to result by session number 4, what would be included in those sessions? And that's going to help you really make your sessions concise and clear and dial it into where you really need to focus. Okay. So now you have the end result that you want to get people, which is the same end result as your flagship program, whatever your offer is going to be. They should be the same, right? You have your 4 building blocks of how are you taking people through these lessons to help them to get a result for free before they make a payment to work with you. And then halfway through that 4th session, you're typically going to pivot into an invitation for your offer, and you're going to move into the 5 days of selling. And one of the most important things to remember is that an adult learner needs to hear something 8 times before they remember it, comprehend it, and most likely are going to take action on it. Most people that launch, that sell, that make offers never get anywhere close to sharing the offer enough times to getting someone to buy. And so they're losing sales all over the place because they're like, I shared my offer. I did my pitch once, maybe twice. 8 times an adult learner needs to hear something before they are going to comprehend it, remember it, and take action. And so, right? And so the 5 days of selling is going to give you an opportunity to pitch live 5 times. And then in addition to that, you're going to be posting on social media. You're going to be emailing on the list. They're going to hear and see that offer, probably 20 times in those couple of days. But what you have to remember is what's second nature to you is not second nature to them. And one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is they stop repeating their offer because they feel like they're repeating themselves. And they're in their operating reality. They're not in the operating reality of the person that's hanging on to your every word, that's trying to keep up with everything that you're saying and really trying to understand, how does this work? Is this right for me? What is this going to look like? Getting all their questions answered. So during the 5 days of selling, you continue to add value. You continue to give them those amazing golden nuggets of they feel like their time is being honored. They feel valued, that they're there. But in addition to that, you're going to pitch every day, but every day you're going to come at it from a different angle. So one day it might be frequently asked questions. Another day it might be case studies and testimonials. Another day it will be mindset around the top objections that you get. So basically what you're doing is you're addressing their objections in advance of them giving them to you so that they can work through the psychological barriers that are standing in the way of them buying, right? So you're typically open cart from day 4 to day 9. And all along the way, you're letting them know, of course, what are the time sensitive bonuses? Are there any special perks, discounts, whatever it is for the launch period? And what is the reason to buy now? Right. And so you can be creative and have fun with it and add new and different things each time that you launch. But that's basically like really high level what the process looks like.
How many times in a year or in a quarter can you do this?
I recommend that people launch every 6 to 8 weeks if they want to create like hyper growth in their business. Like we help people grow really fast, like really big. Yeah. You don't have to do that. Like I don't want anyone listening being like, what? I don't want to grow that fast. I don't want to, that's fine. It's whatever works for you. But if it's really important to you to build brand. So what I always tell people is, even though people get like massive results from live launching, the biggest benefit of live launching is actually building your brand. And that's why the value of your content is so important. That's why getting people to a result for free is so important, because that's what's then going to build your global footprint. And it's who people see you to be and what they perceive of you in the market. And that's not just going to drive sales now, but that's going to drive sales into the future, right? So I tell people if you want to create hyper growth, you should launch every 6 to 8 weeks, right? So it ends up being like every other month. So in between launches, you're continuing to nurture those leads. You're continuing to invite them back to the next launch. Most people actually buy on launches 2, 3, 4. And so that's the interesting thing as well. A lot of people kill themselves to do a launch. And then after the launch is over, they're like, bye. Everything goes dead silent. There's no activity. There's no relationship building. And the problem with that is that you're letting those leads that are like 80, 90% ready to buy go completely cold because you didn't continue to build a relationship with them and bring them to the next launch where they would have bought. So for us, we teach a process where it's not just the runway leading up to the launch, what you do in launch, but then how you pivot right after the launch back into relationship building to invite people into the next launch.
Explosions. I'm stuck here. Like getting money blown, like left, right. As soon as you blow my mind over here, my mind is blown over there. Okay. This is exciting. This is really exciting for me. I'm like really like, oh my gosh. Okay. So here's the question that comes up next for me that I know is maybe coming up next for the audience, but I know that they'll appreciate is, okay, a lot of the people within my society, right? Because I have a membership. They also ask me, how do I build a membership, right? So one of the questions is, and this is because I got an expert over here. open and close carts, because that's what you were talking about, the open and closed carts, the launch dates, the runway, I bet that's detrimental, right? Because I believe I've made a mistake in having my cart open just willy-nilly, like
Yeah.
come in anytime,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
how does one, I'm not talking about me, but maybe a little bit, but how does one from having the open cart all the time, how can that person, not me, maybe I'm me a little bit, start switching into the whole open, closed cart?
So, I mean, it's a great question. I would actually do a relaunch. And when you do the relaunch, let them know that the cart is formally closing. And you can say, this program has been evergreen up until now, but we're moving to a cohort model and we're not going to be opening again until later this year. So now you actually have some scarcity and urgency. And the thing that's hard is, like, I will say, I have some programs that are evergreen and I have some programs that are open cart, closed cart. Obviously, it's much easier to sell when you have open cart, closed cart. Like my high ticket programs, there's no closed cart. So when we're saying cart closes, we're not saying you can't register. We're just saying this cohort is done. If you want to come in this group, if you want to get these bonuses, da, 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 da. But they still know they can join 2 days later, right? Whereas with some of my other programs, it's like closed cart. We're not opening again for 6 months or a year. Okay, now you really have people's attention. So you have to be careful though, because like, it depends. Like you're a web designer, so you have other streams of income and then you have the membership. So you can do that with the membership, which is why I can do that with some of my products as well. A lot of people prematurely do a closed cart model and then they're stuck because they're like, oh my gosh, I just told people I wasn't selling into this anymore, but I didn't hit my launch number and I still need to make sales. But now it looks very bad if you go open that thing back up that you just said was closed. So I always tell people, like, you have to be thoughtful about it. And there's definitely, listen, I built my company to 8 figures and it was an evergreen model. So meaning people could still join outside of launch. The difference was they get the bonuses, they get the extras, they come in with the cohort, all of that. So I would just say for everybody watching, just be thoughtful about it, right? Because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you close cart on something that you're like, I need to sell that next week. And I just said it's closed cart. You just want to make sure that, maybe there is one product in your ecosystem that's evergreen. And then maybe there's another product in your ecosystem that's open close.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. I do have, a lot of recurring income streams.
Because you have your other stuff. I just wanted to make sure I caveated that for other people listening, because it depends on what role that income stream plays in your ecosystem. That's how you should decide whether or not it should be open, close versus evergreen.
Ooh, that's good. Okay. Let's go into the evergreen then. Shoot.
Yeah.
You got me curious.
Yeah.
So let's say they got to keep it on evergreen. How can you incorporate the live launching with this evergreen model?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing, like what we've done, is we just come up with completely new and very innovative different bonuses every cycle. Also, we gear the launch more towards not why the urgency to buy has anything to do with us. We gear it towards, where are we in the year? What are your goals? How long do you want to have to execute what you're learning in the program? How many launches you want to do, so on and so forth. So we actually don't make it about us at all. Like, we're not like, oh, you aren't going to be able to join our program. We're like, listen, you have to do the math on how many launches you're trying to do between now and the end of the year. And you need to decide if you want to be able to get in by this date so you can do your launch by this date so that you can have this many more launches before the end of the year. So I think evergreen works really well when you actually flip it around and put it through the lens of like the customer and how are they thinking and like what is their sense of urgency and purpose and reason for wanting to get a result now. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Thank you for allowing us to think about what we're going to make bonuses for. I really feel like it's those fast action bonuses that help seal the deal, right? But it has to be in alignment, right? You got to have that
exactly.
I love, for me, what I like to have evergreen is like a product suite, having a product suite that people can purchase courses and stuff like that. And then having, maybe a core signature offer that you're opening and closing cart, right? So, okay. All right. And okay. One more question.
Yeah.
So let's take it that they're still not yet in the products or membership type of model, but they want to sell their services. Would it work well with that?
100%. I mean, like I said, I would use this if you have a done for you service. I would use this if you have a consultancy. Just remember, when you think about launching, I think this is so funny. I always try to remind people of this. Launching did not originate in the online space. Launching came from corporate. None of us created launching. Think about pharmaceutical companies when they bring a new drug to the market. What do? They launch. Product launches are like the oldest thing. They're not new. So I want everybody to reframe how you think about launching as a group of people that you're bringing together that have a common interest. They want a specific result. They want a specific outcome. They want a specific solution or service. You're bringing them together. You're teaching them. You're inspiring them. You're inviting them. And then you're making an invitation. So to me, it really doesn't matter what the delivery of that is. It's you need to know what is the core thing that your audience wants from you. What's the ROI for them? Why would they want to change service providers, or why would they want to get started with your service? And just cushioning it in a way that, again, it's all about being in the customer's operating reality, right?
Yes. There's so much to think about. Okay. On to the next. Okay. So let's go into kind of like, I guess, take these next maybe 15 minutes discussing the steps. Let's talk about the runway. Okay, come on, Kelly. Let's plan out a launch. How does we do this? Do we need a Facebook group? Do we need a community? If we don't have one, how do we create one? Are we using social media? Are we using our podcast?
Yes. I mean, definitely the easiest way is using social media. I think a Facebook group is a huge asset in launch. We still use them. We have like 15 different Facebook groups that we use for all different companies of mine with different offers and different audiences. I definitely think that you make it a lot easier on yourself if you do it in a Facebook group. We Zoom and then we Zoom into the Facebook group. And the reason why is then we can pull the attendance from Zoom. We know exactly who watched each session. We can do customized follow-up and specific conversations with the people that way. And then you get kind of double because you have the people that attended on Zoom, which means that people coming from anywhere will join. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, doesn't matter where your audience sits. Zoom is kind of like a common language everybody gets, right? So that's an easy place to host, but then you also capture the people sitting in the Facebook group. So yes, if you can, I think having a Facebook group is very, very smart. It's going to make it a lot easier for you when your leads are contained in one place, right? So you set a date. You know what your topic is, you know what your product that you're offering is, and now you need to generate leads, right? So announce to the world what you're doing. One of the great things that has come up in the last year is one-word marketing, where you just do very simple, comment me on this thread if you want to learn how to live launch in 2024. You've probably seen them everywhere. We use them every single day. We use one-word marketing every single day because it just gets a far better engagement and response because people read on like a third grade level and they have a 2-second attention span. So it's very helpful. But it's really good if you produce a really high quality opt-in first that correlates directly with your launch, because then you can get people engaged with a little ask before a bigger ask. So you want to think about it, little ask, opt-in, medium ask, attend the launch, big ask, make the purchase, right? So come up with an opt-in that relates to the topic you're going to be teaching and launch. You can use one-word marketing on social media to do posts, get people engaging, get people opting in, all of that. And what's beautiful about using the one-word marketing is that instead of people going straight to your email list where you don't have any way to interface with them, they're commenting publicly on social media, which then means you can DM them and start building the relationship and then invite them directly to launch. So it's like a lot to cover in this setting right now, but I will say for the runway, definitely high quality opt-in, then going back to all the people that opted in or commented or engaged on that opt-in and inviting them to the launch. Obviously, then doing a campaign directly posting about the launch, what they're going to learn, what they're going to get, why they should attend, all of that, and then bringing them into your Facebook group and onto your email list so that now you can both be posting in the Facebook group and emailing all throughout the launch. You have a captive audience and you're set up for success.
Okay. I know it was less than 15 minutes. Okay. So the next thing is, let's talk about failures, Kelly, because a lot of us believe that we've never failed. Like for me, I almost feel a bit, like not a failure, but I failed in some areas, like it wasn't, but what is your definition of failing? Right.
Yeah.
So I think some people have done launches, maybe one person sign up and they think it's a failure. I honestly think it's a success when one person sign up, because all you got to do is get people that are just like that one other person, right? But let's say someone launches, they got no signups, they're discouraged. Tell us a moment in your time,
I mean, I've had that happen. I had that happen so many times. That's how the live launch came about, because I signed up for all of the trainings on the former, I'm not going to name it, way that everyone was taught launching, and I implemented it, and it was actually costing me money instead of making money. And I was having failed launches and 0 sale launches, and it just wasn't working for me. And then that's what led to me creating the live launch method and really just simplifying and stripping it down to what I just walked you through today. But no, I mean, absolutely. If you talk to any successful person, they've failed like incessantly. Successful people have failed more times, than the more amateur person has even attempted. And that's just the truth, right? I fail at things all the time. We could spend the entire conversation talking about that. But I think the really important thing is that entrepreneurship is not theoretical. And so the only way that you can actually learn how to become a successful entrepreneur is through taking action. And the vast majority of the action that you take is not going to work out. It's not going to work. But every, 10 or 20 tries that you make of something that you're doing, you're going to find something that does work. And then you're going to duplicate and replicate and duplicate and replicate. The problem is that people assign an emotion and a sense of worthiness to when they're trying things and they work or they don't work. And that's really problematic, because then you're never going to get enough reps and enough variations in to really understand what is going to work. And I see that with launching a ton. Like people will try once and it's like, what other things in life would you think that you could try once and be like successful at it? Like that doesn't even make sense. Like there really aren't areas of life where you can just do something once and think you're going to like own it. And yet people have that expectation with not just launching, but a lot of areas in building their business. And it doesn't work.
Yeah. And I kind of like, the reason why I wanted to touch on that, especially with such a seasoned entrepreneur like yourself, and because we look, someone like you, right? Hey, you're amazing. Your social media is amazing. You're omnipresent. Your Facebooks are thriving. And they're like, well, of course it's easy for her, right? That's how people, so I mean, I've done it. Like, of course it's easy for her. They don't know, because we always, get to that point. Because I have my membership, right? And I'm a lot farther than where I used to be. But sometimes we can get caught up in like, well, it's not the number that I wanted, right? It's not where, and we can get caught up in that when we're really actually maybe killing the game, but we're just not doubling down.
It happens all the time. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, that's exactly it. And it's removing the emotion and instead focusing on, well, what is the action that's going to move you forward to where you want to be? That's it. Because there's nothing else besides that in that moment that's going to change that in a positive way. Right.
Yes, because I've heard from like a social media manager, very successful, Shannon. She was on the podcast episode and she was talking about sit down and talk to people, that conversation, having a conversation. That's what made her like, she had a Reels course, academy, but really it was because of her market research that she is where she wants to be. Then we had Jillian Perkins, an amazing YouTuber. She has 700,000 following on YouTube. And, I was like, hey, was this, what is it?
Yeah.
And she talked about basically she doubled down. Because my whole thing is kind of like, okay, what is the trait? This is my question with this comment. What is the trait for these mompreneurs, amazing, incredible women, right? Go-getters incredible at what they do. They have the method, teaching method, right? But what is it that is that thread that is like, hey, you do this. And the number one thing that I've gotten before I go there, what do you think it is, Kelly? Because I bet you know, because you're there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's resilience and discipline, right? It's not stopping. Like, really, it's not like a special talent or a special skill so much as it is a mindset of determination.
Amen. I would add to that too. Yes, it's discipline. Yes, it's determination. But it's also doubling down on your gifts and talents. How you were talking about at the beginning, right? Before, what is your gifting? What is your talent? Because you have seen where you can fit within the market, right? Like, okay, I can kill it here. So when was that moment that you saw that? Because there's always those, like, when was the moment from, I don't know if I can, to I know I can? Or was it, I don't know if I can, or I have to make it happen? What was it for you, right? What was that?
I think it was more, I'm going to make it happen. It was just like, once I made the decision, it was just like, you just don't stop, and it's just one foot in front of the other, and I think a lot of people are looking for perfection from themselves or from their performance or their results. And instead, what they need to be looking for is progression. It's the progression over time. It's the compounding of learning and success and results. And that's what's really going to get you to where you want to be.
Because you did touch on something. You said you help people be good leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. Be sure.
And I mean, let's be honest, that starts with self-leadership. And I think that's the biggest struggle for entrepreneurs. And so when I look at leadership, it starts with self, right? And then it's with your team, and then it's with your clients, and then it's with the market. A lot of people want to lead the market, but they're not leading themselves. And so self-leadership is about self-trust. It's about belief, faith, execution, discipline, resilience, taking ownership, being accountable, trusting yourself, all of those things. And so you have to really focus on developing those qualities as a leader, as an individual first, before you're going to get to the point where a lot of people want to be, which is they want to lead the market. And it's like, you're not leading the market. You got to lead yourself. Like, then when you figure that out, then we can talk about what does the ripple effect look like to impact other people.
You're faithful with the small, you'll be faithful with the big, right? The small is first starts with
yes.
Wow. Okay, wait. Okay. That makes me think about a couple of things, because leadership, what is one thing that you can leave us with when it comes to that you want to drop, right? From this conversation, from the beginning, from the moment we started, right? To now, what would you like to say? What would be that one thing that you want to say?
Well, I think that whatever dream you have for yourself is very small in contrast to the vision that God has for your life, right? And for your talent and your capabilities and your contribution. And so I think just keeping in mind that if you have that dream that's been planted on your heart and you have something that is inside of you that's telling you that this is for you, trusting that, and also being patient and being willing to do the work over time to allow things to materialize, because a lot of times a result isn't coming in a season or in a moment because you're not ready for it. Mm-hmm. And it's not, even if it did come to you very, very quickly, it would also leave you just as quickly. And so sometimes you have to grow into the person that can retain that result. And just so trust, faith, patience.
Patience. Woo. Okay, since we have room for one more question.
Yes.
That was the last one. No. So, okay, Kelly, let's talk about, and the last thing that I really, because I hear women in my community, and I get emails from the women within my community, and it's about trials, when they're going through trials, right? So how can they develop that discipline and continue to move forward when they don't feel like it, right? Like, what systems can we put in place when we don't feel it?
I think the biggest thing is like reflecting back on your own life, right? Like, everyone has been through things, and in the moment you think it's going to last forever. and you think it's like the biggest thing, and you think it's going to hold you back, and you think it's going to stop you, and all of these things. But then like in retrospect, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I blew that out of proportion, or I can't believe I put that much weight on that thing, or whatever the case. And I think if you can remember your own history, you can create your own future, right? You've done hard things. You've overcome big obstacles. You can do it again, but you just can't put so much weight and gravity on every single situation that happens. You have to be nimble. You have to be able to like walk through the situations that are going to come at you. I always tell people you can't play small enough to not deal with the problems that are the reality of business and life. And so like a lot of people shrivel back and they slow down when things seem really hard, or when things aren't going their way, or whatever the case. And that doesn't solve anything. Like it never helps,
And it's so good. Resilience. Yeah. Resilience, as you were talking about. I like that. I like that perspective. That never solves anything.
It never solves anything.
You know what? It's too hard. Let me take a break because it's too hard.
Yeah.
Right? And basically, so basically what you're saying is say to yourself, we've been here before. We got this.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yep.
Kelly, where can people find you?
Thank you so much for having me. I would say the Kelly Roach Show is honestly the best place to come and learn and grow. 20-minute episodes. I drop new episodes every single week. We touch on business, life, scale, strategy, faith, like the whole gamut. And so come check out the Kelly Roach Show. I'd love to have you all.
Yes, I've listened to it. Love it. So I'm subscribed. I'm a subscriber.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hi, it's Linda, and I would absolutely love if you can give us a review, whether it's on Spotify, iHeart, or Apple. I want to know if this podcast is resonating with you. Do you love the podcast? I would love to hear from you. So please leave us a review. It helps me know if I am in the right area to serve you. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Until next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have a chance, stop by the website at lindamendable.com and join us over at Monetizing Mompreneurs Facebook group. I just want to say again, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.